Welcome back to another episode of the Wartime MMA Podcast, UFC 314 edition. It's your boy, Alex, Tony, Mike, Sink. We all here, four deep. So, you know what we about to get into. We about to predict some fights.
Nora Canol versus Haley Cohen. I don't know what her fucking last name is. It's so weird. Some of these people's last names. I'm gonna go with Nora Canol. Haley Cohen is shit, and going off by like women's MMA standpoint, whoever's most lesbian looking normally wins the fight. Nora Canol looks manly as ever compared to Haley Cohen, so I'm definitely going with Nora Canol. I think this is going to be a decision fight. I got Nora Canol by decision.
Yeah, I also have to go Nora Cornell. Usually women's MMA fights are pretty close, hard to pick. This is not one of those. Haley Cohen hasn't really gotten her stride in the UFC. She kind of had a boring decision win on the Contender, but you know, she's kind of hot, so they signed her based on that. And now she's in the UFC. She fought Jamie Lynn Horth, who I actually somewhat rate for women's MMA. I think Jamie Lynn Horth's pretty decent. There is a fine line between your Jamie Lynn Horths and your everybody else's, that's kind of like the line is getting drawn in the sign. Like, that's where your Veronica Macedos will beat a Jamie Lynn Horth, but won't beat, your Lupi Godinez's. So there's a lot of layers in the strawweight division in particular when it comes to women. And Haley Cohen's at the bottom of it, because Jamie Lynn Horth is decent, but she is still not good enough to beat the majority of women in that division, outside of the bums. Haley Cohen, I think, is a bum. I think she's one of these girls that I could definitely see having an OnlyFans on the side. I'm not sure that she does. I don't want to put that out there if she doesn't, but she's definitely one of those that could. She has other options, whereas Nora Cornell probably does not. She's a French woman, probably grew up around the kickboxing scene. She is a head kick knockout over Melissa Mullins, who's actually pretty decent in her own right. I value that pretty heavily. This is women's bantamweight. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about strawweight. She must have lost to Jamie Lynn Horth at flyweight then. Yeah. And then I really don't trust her moving up to face Nora, who's pretty big, pretty strong for bantamweight. I don't know why I thought it was strawweight. Yeah, she had kicked Melissa Mullins, who's pretty decent in her own right for women's bantamweight standards. I think if you could do that to Melissa Mullins, you can do this to Haley Cohen. She had a split decision, close fight with Jacqueline Cavalcanti, who's pretty decent, pretty rangy, a decent fighter in that women's weight class who's difficult to deal with. And she made it close. And, not to say she's going to be champion, but I can definitely see her maybe touching the top 10. I think she's lost to to Cavalcanti. She's still good enough to beat the majority of these bitches. So I think I could even see a TKO here. But women's MMA, I think it'll be a dominant 30-27, probably fixing the grappling, even though on paper it should be a striking matchup. But I think Nora Cornell will probably win women's MMA fashion, but I wouldn't rule out a TKO. I don't know what the odds are on that, but it might be worth sprinkling a little on inside the distance for Nora. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be the third to go Nora Cornell. I haven't seen anything that I was impressed with Haley Cohen, and I think I rate any finish you get in women's MMA, especially like she kneed her to the body and then finished her off with kicks. And I agree with what Alex said. I'd probably put Melissa Dixon at a higher echelon than Haley Cohen. So yeah, short and simple, I got Nora Cornell. I'm gonna go decision.
First fight of the night, first clean sweep of the night. I'm going to go with Nora Cornell. I don't really know much about Haley Cohen. I've seen Nora Cornell lose to Cavalcanti. Cavalcanti's not bad. Short, simple, and sweet. There's been an emergence of French fighters in the male divisions. As for like a Cyril Gane, a Benoit Saint-Denis, a Faris Ziam, a William Gomez, the guy that got slept by Talbot because he listened to his video, Gamori, but not too many French women outside of Manon Fiorot. We need another one to go with her, so we'll go with Nora Connolly by decision. Haley Cowan's OnlyFans fighter on the way.
Trajan Gore versus Marco Tulio. I was gonna go with Trajan Gore, but the activity and he fought Andre Chikoli. Chikoli's trash. Marco Tulio looked pretty good in his last fight. Back-to-back knockouts. Yeah, it was Io Pateria, but I think if you're able to knock out an Eeyore Pateria, I think you should be able to knock out a Trayshawn Gore. Trayshawn Gore he's not the worst, but he is definitely a hit or miss. He's kind of like a middleweight McKinney in a way. Like, if he doesn't get a knockout, he is either going to get finished or subbed at some point of in his fights. I think I'm going to go with Marco Tulio by KO in the second. I think he's going to knock him out in the second round. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, it's I think I'm gonna have the exact same prediction as Mike. I think I'm gonna go Marco in the second round by TKO. I don't want to sleep on Trayshawn Gore. I feel like he's finally starting to tap into his potential, but he's still very, very, very green. And looking back, he beat a lot of people's ass on The Ultimate Fighter, but a lot of those people were ass. Looking back at it, the only people really in that season that were worth a damn at middleweight were Trayshawn Gore and Brian Battle. Brian Battle's doing his thing. Trayshawn Gore's decent. I think Andre Petrosky's from that season, but he's fucking ass. So that proves my point. Gilbert Urbina proves my point. They're all ass from The Ultimate Fighter from here on out. But Trayshawn Gore showed that he has real, explosive power and, raw talent. I think Marco is just probably better at this point, more experienced. He's not really green, whereas Trayshawn Gore is still kind of, becoming not green. I think Trayshawn Gore could make some mistakes and get chinned. I think he got chinned on the feet by Cody Brundage, which really doesn't look good. I think Marco Tulio is a lot better striker than Brundage. I think he's a lot better striker than Trayshawn Gore. And I think he was a much better striker than Brian Battle at the time that he fought Trayshawn Gore. So I think he's dating Norma Dumont. Brother just wins in and outside the cage. He's got a good grappling game. I worry about him shooting takedowns on Trayshawn Gore with his head outside because Trayshawn Gore's got a nasty guillotine. Even though Josh Fremd and Antonio Tricoli are mid, they are grapplers and they are also much taller than Trayshawn Gore. So the fact that he's finishing jiu-jitsu guys much taller than he is with guillotines is very impressive. And I could see him fucking ripping his head off his shoulders with a guillotine here. But I think Tulio's just better. I could see him just flowing on the feet and getting a knockout. Him knocking out Potieri in the first round is a good look. A lot of people don't do that, even though they should. If you do that to Potieri, it means you're of quality. And he dealt with Yusri Belgarui on the feet. And you're able to deal with that on the feet. You should be able to deal with Trayshawn Gore on the feet. But yeah, I think Tulio's second round TKO. Kicks, punches. I can see a spinning back kick to the body, low key. Yeah, TKO, second round.
Think.
I'm gonna have to be the third one to go. Marco Tulio as well, for all the reasons that they've already said. Trayshawn Gore is the greener fighter, and like Alex said, I really don't rate him getting finished by Cody Brundage on the feet. So yeah, short and simple, I got Tulio.
Let's add on to the consecutive sweep streak. I'm going to go with Marco Tulio, and I'm going to piggyback off of Mike's prediction. Second round TKO, I like it. More experienced fighter. Trayshawn Gore, he's got a good guillotine. He's athletic. Tulio, I think, is the better striker. I do rate the way he was able to take care of Pateria, and I did watch that fight against Belgary, and he was able to more than handle himself on the feet against him. That's a high-level kickboxer. I have to rate his striking, at least from a technical aspect, more than Trayshawn Gore's. I feel as so long as Tulio doesn't enter the pocket or boxing range with his hands down, I feel like this is kind of his fight to lose. He seems to be the more well-rounded fighter everywhere the fight goes. Outside of maybe they're equivalent in power. Trayshawn Gore is athletic, and his guillotine. Outside of that, I feel like Tulio is the better leg kicker, better range manager. Able to wrestle, able to be more dangerous in submissions outside of the guillotine. I'll go with the second round TKO, Marco Tulio, and the sweep streak continues.
We got Sumo Derigi versus Mitch Raposo. Originally, I was going to go with Mitch Raposo because, record. He also had a split decision went to a split decision with Lima, but I rewatched that fight. That shouldn't have been a split decision. I had Lima either at least 2-1 or possibly a clean sweep 3-0. against Mitch. Yeah, Mitch was like standing his base and like staying in the fight with Andre Lima, but he wasn't really doing anything like oh my god, he's gonna fraud check Lima here. I'm gonna go with Sumidwerji. I know he's on a losing streak, but besides the Matt Schnell loss, which is iffy to me, he's only losing to Tim Elliott and fucking Charles Johnson. Two guys that are pretty well rounded in flyweight, and also another types of fighters that don't really. It's not really bad to lose to. I'm gonna go with Sumidwerji by decision.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm also going to go Sumidarji. Raposo's from that Ultimate Fighter season I was talking about. He's ass. He's small. You know, he's supposed to be like a grappler, I think, but he's not really good at that. He trains at New England Cartel, which pretty much means you're ass if you're not Calvin Kattar or Rob Font. And he is ass. Like Mike said, that was not a split decision against Andre Lima. Andre Lima, I think he said he went into that fight injured and he just kind of cruised the whole time. Like he never really had any intent on any of his strikes, just kind of jabbing and calf kicking at range. And he still pretty clearly won against Raposo. I think maybe Raposo won a round just based on activity and like getting a takedown. But that doesn't mean a lot to me, especially if like Sumidarji comes in here not injured. I think he's going to be able to piece him up on the feet. Even if Raposo does get takedowns. The Matt Schnell fight does not look good in hindsight for Sumidarji. Him getting fucked up like that and not being able to finish Matt Schnell when Matt Schnell made Steve Erceg look at it like a knockout puncher, and now we all know that Steve Erceg is not a knockout puncher. Matt Schnell is just that chinny. You kind of just, I don't know, because Matt Schnell kind of whooped his ass. And I do see, like, Tapology, I think it's 40% for Raposo, 60 for Mudarji, which is kind of crazy. I felt like everybody was going to be picking Mudarji. I think Mudarji that was embarrassing enough of a law for him to make some improvements. And I just think he's way rangier, way better striker. I could just see him peppering him every round and outlanding him. And even if he does get the takedowns, I don't see Raposo as a real threat on the ground. I don't see him having a threat with the submissions or ground and pound. He would just be getting takedowns and having control time. And I think comes to this thing, I think Mudarji's on a 4-fight losing streak. This is his chance to break it. They want Chinese fighters in the UFC way more than they want bummy New England cartels. So I think even if it is close, they'll favor Sumidarji. I think it'll be a decision, just land in the better strikes. Whereas it's strikes versus control time. Raposo does jack shit. New England Cartel sucks. It's a terrible gym. Don't go there if you care about your career.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Sumidarji as well. I rate the losses that Sue has had to grapplers. I'd say they're better at grappling than Mitch Raposo, and Mitch Raposo's hasn't put the work in, albeit like Sumidarji's losing a lot of the time, but he still has that greater experience of UFC caliber opponents than Mitch Raposo's had. And Mitch Raposo's got T-Rex arms. So on the feet, I'd see Sumidarji going to be able to piece up Mitch Raposo on the feet. And like Alex and Mike said, I think Mitch Raposo's threat on the ground isn't high enough for me to go Mitch. So yeah, I got Sue.
3 straight fights, 3 straight clean sweeps. I'm gonna go with Sumidarji. I just looked at Mitch Raposo's record of his opponents that he's faced. Yeah, it's not close. Mudarji's clearly fought the better guys. He's crazy to say, but Mitch Raposo's small for flyweight. Sumidarji's going to have a significant size and reach advantage in this fight as opposed to past matchups. He lost to Charles Johnson in his last fight, but I liked the urgency that he had in the 3rd round. I liked the intensity that he carried in that fight. He's on a 4-fight losing streak, so urgency, desperation, hunger is what I expect to see from Sumidarji to get this win. Market-wise, I agree with Alex. I think a Chinese fighter here is more valuable than your run-of-the-mill American fighter. Not saying Sumidarji is a world beater or anything, but the level of competition, it really isn't close. He's fighting better fighters, more well-rounded fighters. I agree with them as well. I don't think the Andre Lima fight was a split decision. I will say, though, Raposo was looking okay in certain boxing exchanges. He wasn't landing anything to make you go, oh, wow, he might beat Lima, but he was landing points. You know, he was getting his little tit-for-tat shots. I feel like that luxury will not be available in this fight because just from a size perspective, Raposo's closer to Lima more than he's going to be in this matchup. Maderji's going to have reach, range. He'll be able to dictate the tempo and the pace and where exactly this fight follows. And being on that losing streak, I anticipate he's going to want to get that win. So I'm going to go to Sumaderji decision. So long as he defends the takedowns, I kind of think this is his fight to lose, honestly. He's the bigger fighter. He's the more battle-tested fighter. I'll go with the Sumaderji decision, and the clean sweep streak continues.
Cedric Dumas versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I'm gonna go with Cedric Dumas. I don't mind people picking Oleksiejczuk. I get it, but I feel like Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is the type of person that Cedric Dumas will get a split decision win on. Like, I think this fight will be close. Cedric Dumas did not look bad against Nurulstan Ruzaboyev. Yeah, he got TKO'd or KO'd, but dude got eye poked, and I'm not saying like he was winning the fight, but he was hanging in there with Ruzaboyev. I'm gonna go with a split decision Cedric Dumas victory here. Like I said, I think it's in Florida. I think that's gonna help him out here with it, and he's also highly like for how he is in the rankings. He's very well known a little bit just for trying to fight with motherfuckers at the No Jumper podcast and people like that. I feel like they're gonna probably like use him as a name value. So yeah, I got Dumas by decision.
Yeah, this is going to be the end of the clean sweeps. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to go with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk here. It is close. I've thought about picking Cedric. I think he is has the ability to mix in the grappling if he so chooses. I've seen him do it before. He's a long-rangier striker, and like Mike said, if it's a close fight, I could definitely see Cedric grabbing a split decision if it is close. Although Mikhail has been losing a lot, you have to look at who he's losing to. They're all relatively quality fighters. They're all former top 15 or current top 15, mostly. He's losing to, I think he lost to Evan Holland, Chara. I can't remember who else, to be honest, off the top of my head. But not bad fighters, and they kind of just kept giving people like that were ranked high.
He lost to Pereira and
Michelle Pereira, Kyle Mahalo.
That's right.
And these are top fighters. And, you know, the Chidi Njokwani win is looking pretty decent. Like, he only really loses to quality. And he was tagging Chara plenty of times in that fight. You know, Chara was still able to land what he needed off the back foot and win the decision, especially in Abu Dhabi. But it's a lot closer of a fight than you know, people act like it is. Mikhail was tagging and landing a lot on Chara. And he's tough as nails. He's been there. He's done that. Like, he's fought pretty much the who's who in, like, the middleweight. He's even fought a lot of light heavyweights back when he was up there. He has a win over Khalil Roundtree, actually, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. But I think he's just got the experience. I think Cedric could definitely make it close with his grappling and his rangy striking. He's definitely got the range here. But in his history of fights, I haven't really been able to trust him to keep that range efficiently and not make it a close fight. Like, I think if you're making it a close fight with your Dennis Talulins and your Abu Zaitars, that's where Mikhail Oleksiejczuk can win a decision pretty clear, or maybe even get a TKO. I think he's just going to be able to tag him up, be tough. He's not going to really be too rattled by anything Cedricus does, and I think just the frame will help him stuff takedowns, thick, small guy, pause. And I think he's just going to be able to keep him at, like, where he wants the fight to be. He'll be able to get in close. I don't think Cedric will be able to keep the range. Probably like a 29-28, 30-27 decision. Mikhail Oleksiejczuk.
I'm gonna have to second Alex there. I've got Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Yeah, he's put a lot more work in against higher caliber opponents than Cedric. I think there's multiple ways for Mikhail to win here. He's shown to have pretty decent striking. Like he's been able to survive on the feet against Shara. Did pretty well in that fight. I'd rate Shara higher than Cedric at this point. And like Alex was saying, the people he's fighting is just a different echelon. I think Cedric also, I've seen him on his back a lot. I think Mikhail could mix it up and confuse him where it's taking place. Yeah, he hurt. He did well against Holland up until he got subbed. Like he dropped him. And I kind of rate that. It is Holland, but like he doesn't get dropped that often. So yeah, I'm gonna go Mikhail here against Cedric.
Tough fight. The clean sweep streak ends. Kind of a polarizing fight to me a little bit. I think Oleksiejczuk is the better boxer. I reckon he may even have the power advantage. He's got the experience advantage. He's fought the clearly better competition. Sindrikas, to me, though, I think may be the better athlete overall in terms of movement, takedown entries, just closing distance, and just being fast in general. I think he's got the range advantage, and I think he's got the wrestling advantage. The key to this fight is, does Sindrikas Dumas fight smart? If he fights smart, he uses his range, he finds entries to find takedowns, and he pretty much capitalizes on top time of Oleksiejczuk and is able to kind of neutralize the explosiveness and the danger, at least early in the fight. Because I expect Michael Oleksiejczuk to come out round one trying to take his head off. If Sindrikas is able to extend the fight, kind of weather the storm per se in that first round, I think he is live in terms of wrestling upside. He has a blick, I think. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I'm tempted to pick Dumas, bro. I just looked at it on UFC.com. Oleksiejczuk has 48% takedown defense. That's not great. And I'm trying to think back of when he's been like wrestled. I can't even remember the last couple. Most of his fights occur on the feet. Dumas ain't no Olympic wrestler or nothing, but he out grappled Cody Brundage. That's something. That's an NCAA wrestler, and he was able to pretty much stay on top of him the entirety of the fight. Granted, Oleksiejczuk KO'd Brundage in the first round, in the common opponent they have. So you could look at that as Dumas went to decision with Brundage, couldn't finish him, Oleksiejczuk killed him and won. This is a really tough fight for me, because I could see both of them winning. But, for the sake of it being in Miami, I'm gonna piggyback Mike on this one. I'm gonna go with Sindrikas Dumas by decision. I think he's gonna find ways to get the takedowns, extend the fight, and not be I was gonna say a word that YouTube is gonna censor me for. I stopped myself. Not be dumb.
Retarded.
Yeah, thank you. He's not gonna be dumb. He's not gonna be in the pocket with fucking Oleksiejczuk. Like, I know the competition is very much in favor of Oleksiejczuk, but I'm going to go with the Dumas decision where he fights smart, uses his range, gets takedowns, gets on top, and wins a competitive decision. I don't hate the split decision take either. I could definitely see that. Where Oleksiejczuk's damage and impactful blows are outweighed by the control time and the points of Dumas. I could see it.
Darren Elkins versus Julia Rosa. I'm going to go with Julian Rosa here. I think he is going to... I think he's going to... It is hard to finish Darren Elkins, but I do think he is going to sub Darren Elkins. I'm going to go with the submission win by Julian Rosa. Julian Rosa is... He just came off a good win against Christian Rodriguez, although it's not really like the best win now that C-Rod lost, but that's just... I don't know. I don't think Darren Elkins is as good as he used to. Yeah, he's on a 2-fight win streak, but am I really gonna rate a Daniel Pineda and a TJ Brown win? I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to. Plus, I don't know. He's also getting older. He's 40 years old. Yeah, Julian Rosa's no spring chicken either, but I think now that we're in we're in a time where like 40-year-olds are now going to fight like 35 plus fighters or 35-year-old fighters in general. The 35-year-old fighter normally beats the 40-year-old. I'm gonna go with Julian Erosa by sub, and I'll go with a first or second round sub.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Julian Erosa as well. Darren Elkins is cooked, beyond cooked at this point. He's kind of just still alive, basically. And so they just decided to still give him like a job, I think. And he wins still. So that's surprising enough as it is. But I think this is like he loses one fight and then he's cut sort of fight. Like after this, even though he's on a 2-fight win streak, I could see him losing here and getting cut. The damage has taken too much damage. I don't mind the submission pick by Mike. I'm going to pick decision just because the only person to ever submit Darren Elkins was Charles Oliveira. And I'm not going to really be willing to pick Erosa to do that. But at this point, I could see it, and it's very popular. And NASCAR, he's got a team. He submitted a lot of prospects in his day. And I think he's definitely capable of submitting an old washed veteran, too. You know, he recently submitted Christian Rodriguez, which is an impressive win. People don't do that to Christian Rodriguez, and he did. First round. And he submitted a lot of other people on their come-ups. Charles Jourdain, Sean Woodson, a lot of other people. So I think Erosa can get it done. I don't hate the submission pick, but I'm going to pick decision. I'm going to say 30-27. I think Elkins just won't have as much. I can see 30-26, 30-25. Maybe a battering, like, in the ground and pound until he gets, like, an arm triangle submission. I can just see it getting bloody, you know, like many Elkins fights do. And I think Erosa is, you know, he's chinny, but I don't think he's dumb. I think he's got decent fight IQ. He knows what he needs to do in fights to win them. I think it's just Darren Elkins, you open that scar tissue and you go to work. You know what I mean? And I think he knows that. And I think it'll be a dominant, bloody decision.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Julian Erosa here too. I've just seen Darren Elkins take so much damage, cut up. He's got to have like a crazy amount of CT at this point. Yeah, I gotta go Julian Erosa just based off of where they are at this point in their careers. Yeah, I'm gonna go Erosa decision.
It's a good fight. I didn't realize how similar their records are. Elkins is 29-11. Erosa's, I think, 30-11. The 5-year difference is big in this fight in terms of youth. Both are coming off wins, I want to say. So that's interesting. They both are carrying momentum into this matchup. Elkins, you know, there's always a disadvantage with him with the scar tissue in terms of optics for decisions. He's always going to get cut. He's always going to bleed. That's never a great look in terms of scoring fights for him in that particular fashion. But Julian Erosa is fairly well-rounded. The people he loses to, usually good. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Julian Erosa decision. I think he just does enough on the feet, on the ground to land more damaging strikes. And I don't mind the submission pick either, but as Alex alluded to, the only person to submit Darren Elkins was Charles Oliveira. If Erosa could pull it off, hats off to him. He's got good jiu-jitsu in his own right, but Oliveira's got the most submissions in the UFC, so I'm going to respect that over that, and I'm going to go with the decision for Julian Erosa.
Chase Hooper versus Jim A10 Miller. I'm going to go with Chase Hooper. I think Jim Miller's cooked, and I think Chase Hooper's on his comeback grind. I think he's in his, I don't know who to compare it to. I see a lot of people comparing it to like a Charles Oliveira where he's like, he started in the UFC very, very young and he wasn't in his right weight class when he started. And now that he's in his, now he's in lightweight doing some moves over there. I'm going to go with the club and sub. By Chase Hooper. I think he gets this done. My main reason, the last person to sub Jim Miller was also Charles Oliveira, but I did some research. He got subbed by a depleted Michael Chiesa. I don't rate that heavily. And I think Jim Miller's... Oh, I'm not Jim Miller. I think Chase Hooper's a way better grappler than Michael Chiesa. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the club and sub. I don't know if it's gonna be first. I'm gonna go with a first or second.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Chase Hooper as well. I don't think Chase Hooper fits the description of the people that Jim Miller beats, especially at this point. I think I'll give Jim Miller the respect of not getting subbed, but I'm gonna say he gets pounded out. Pause for the finish. Chase Hooper's on an upward trajectory at this point of his career. From fight to fight, he just seems to keep on improving. And I liked his ground and pound against was it Slavoklos?
Yes.
Yeah, he was fucking his ass up. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go Chase Hooper here. We'll see further improvements in this fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Sink and Mike. I think Chase Hooper does him pretty easily, to be honest, even though Jim Miller historically is not easy. I think this is the type of fight where, like Sink alluded to, like where it's a pretty bad matchup for Jim. And, you know, maybe a couple years ago, we might all pick Jim Miller, but Chase Hooper's gone on a hell of a run in the last couple of years, and he's beat the shit out of people. His grappling's looked great. His striking's looked improved. He beat the shit out of a guy solely in the striking. And, like, he almost set a strike record, like a lightweight strike record against Nick Fiore. And that was impressive in its own right, even though Nick Fiore's ass. But I think, you know, he still needs to polish up a little bit some of the striking. I don't think he has the striking advantage here, but I think Vase will go to the ground 100%. And when it goes to the ground, that's where I think Chase is another animal. I think the transitions that he does, like the submissions that he's able to pull off, are so slick. And I think Jim Miller is just too old. He's been submitted a lot before, even though jiu-jitsu is his bread and butter. I think Chase Hooper is just on a run right now, and I think his submission game is honestly next level. And there's not a lot of people who are on the same level as him outside of, your Oliveira's, Ortega's, people like that. And even then, you could argue Ortega isn't what he used to be, and all these other guys are kind of on the downside. And Chase Hooper is kind of like the future of like the BJJ guy in the UFC. And I'm rooting for him. I think he's, we've all kind of seen him mature throughout the years. And I think he's kind of maturing into like a mini DuBronx. Like, he's a really fun fighter to watch. He's no boring BJJ guy. Like, he's what you want to see when you watch a BJJ guy. You don't want to watch no boring bullshit. Like, you want to watch cool transitions, cool submissions, like some really slick, impressive shit. And that's what you get with Chase Hooper. And I just think he has a lot of options on the ground to submit Jim Miller. I think he could go for legs, he could go for arms, he could triangle choke, he could go for the back. There's all sorts of things he could do. And I don't think there's a lot Jim could do about it. I think Jim needs a knockout, and I don't think he'll be able to get it. I think Chase Hooper's going to get it at the end of the first or the beginning of the second. I want to say he took Clay Guida to the second. If that's the case, I'm going to pick Miller in the second. Oh, no, he got him at the end of the first. I'll go end of the first, too. Yeah, I think he'll sub him at the end of the first. People sub Miller more than they sub Guida, so yeah, I'll go end of the first round. First round submission, Chase Hooper. I'm going to go armbar.
Yeah, we're all in further agreement. I'm going to go Chase Hooper. He's constantly improving, getting better. 145 was never his weight class. Now 155, he seems to be developing into a formidable contender. His jiu-jitsu is next level. He's got good size for 155, too, in terms of his frame and his reach. He was able to drop Vyacheslav Borishev on the feet and then able to get a dominating ground and pound TKO over him, which was very impressive. I picked Chase Hooper in that fight. I didn't think he was going to be as dominant as he was, though. I thought he would be able to latch up a submission in exchange just because Borishev's not the best with takedown defense, but he pretty much dominated Borishev. As for this matchup, respect to the legend Jim Miller. Can't thank him enough for what he's done for this company and the amount of time he spent in that octagon. He is a true legend of the sport. But I fear, Chase Hooper's just got so much momentum right now. Clear size advantage, clear grappling advantage. I think the second it hits the mat, it's wraps. I'm going to go with Chase Hooper. Submission round. Yeah, it's like between end of round 1 and round 2. I feel the same as Alex on that. I'll go round 2, just out of respect for Jim Miller.
Verna Jandaroba versus Yaun Jianyan. I'm going to go with Verna Jandaroba, and that's all I got to say. I don't really give a fuck about that fight.
I'm gonna have to go Virna Jandiroba. I do like how Jan's been looking lately. She had even though it arguably should have been stopped, she had a hell of a competitive fight with the current champion. And yeah, but Virna's grappling's just look levels above everyone she's fought pretty much so far. Recently, she subbed Lemos in like one round. She beat Lupi, who's like known as a good grappler, with her grappling. And Yan Janan in the past has shown to be not very adept at dealing with grappling. Although it's been looking improved, I do think Virna Jandiroba is like way too high of a level for those improvements to matter in the grand scheme of things, and I see her winning by decision.
I also have to go with Virna Jandiroba here. She is actually really good grappling for strawweight. Her jiu-jitsu is really good. She's I feel like improved recently as well. She seems to be able a lot more efficient with her takedowns and her submissions. She recently submitted Lemos. I think Yan Xiaonan, she's shown that her grappling is not the best in moments. You know, she has decent takedown defense, but when she's on the ground, she kind of gets ran through. Carla Esparza beat the shit out of her. Carla Esparza beat the shit out of somebody. That's impressive. Like, come on. Like, that happened. So, I can't unsee that when I'm looking at Yan Xiaonan. Wei Li knocked her out and subbed her in a fight. And she actually had moments in that fight as well, to be fair, but I wasn't a fan of the way grappling looked there either. To be fair, it's Wei Li, but I still was like, okay, that's still a hole that could be used. And I think Jandiroba is good enough to use it. I think she'll probably get an armbar or a rear naked or arm triangle or something. I think I'm going to pick submission in this fight. I'm going to go second round submission, Jandiroba.
Tough fight. Yao Zhangyan, former title challenger. I didn't realize how close they are in age. I thought Yao Zhangyan was slightly or fairly older, younger than Jandiroba, but they're only 1 year apart. Jandiroba's got really good grappling. She's got momentum. She's on this win streak right now. Yao Zhangyan, I think, is the clearly better striker, but I think the gap, there's an argument to be made that it's just simply more immense on the ground than it is on the feet. And I know Jandiroba is by no means a great striker in any way, shape, or form, but all she got to do is just get the takedowns and secure top time and find different types of submissions to threaten Zhangyan with. I'll go with Virna by... I can see the submission, I can. But... you know what? I'll be bold, why not, I guess, because... Wei Li wasn't able to sub. I mean, she kind of did. No, she did. No, she did sub her. They just didn't count it. I'll go with Virna Jandiroba. Yeah, I'll follow Alex. Second round submission.
We got Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. I was thinking about trying to find a way to pick Dan Ige in this fight, but I'm going to go with Sean Woodson. Although I could see Ige winning. Which fight was it? Was it Luis Saldana? Wasn't that the fight that he like got knocked out in, but they like overturned it because it was a
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see Dan Ige doing some crazy shit like that, but I'm gonna go with Sean Woodson by decision. I feel like he's just gonna pick and choose his. He's just gonna weight bully the fuck out of Dan Ige. Let's just be honest here. I feel like he's just gonna range fuck him and just put that jab on him.
Yeah. Like Mike, I do have that singed memory into my brain of Saldana absolutely fucking destroying Sean Woodson and Woodson getting bailed out by that illegal knee, but I do like where Sean Woodson is momentum-wise at this point in his career, and I can see his style being tricky for Dan Ige. He hasn't really had to deal with this type of style recently. Woodson's a switch stance fighter. He's got a good jab from both sides, good footwork, pretty elusive on the feet. But Dan Ige could. He's always liable to land that one shot that just puts you out. But yeah, I'm gonna go Sean Woodson decision via range maxing.
Pick Dan Ige.
Oh shit.
Dan Ige by knockout. I've seen, like you guys mentioned, the fucking Luis Saldana fight is fucking ingrained in my memory of watching him getting fucking dropped by that bum and him getting bailed out by that illegal knee. To be fair to Woodson, he was able to, after, like he didn't stop, like he didn't take that as out of the fight, and he went on to win the next 2 rounds. So I do think that's impressive. But let's not forget, if he didn't throw that illegal knee, it would be a stoppage right there. And Dan Ige hits a whole lot harder than Luis Saldana, and he's a lot better too. And he's got a lot better coaches behind him. He's got an underrated grappling game, although it's not like super good. He can get takedowns. And I think, Sean Woodson uses his frame well, especially on the fence to defend takedowns. But he's made a lot of fights close where he shouldn't have made them close. Like in hindsight, he shouldn't have made the Charles Jourdain fight close. And Charles Jourdain's a bantamweight now, and there's other fights in his record too. He got submitted by Julian Erosa. There's some stinkers on Sean Woodson's record. That being said, dude's good. He's rangy. He's really fucking awkward to deal with. He can pop up a knee real fast, and I could see him definitely licking up Ige, but I think with his coaches behind him, I think Nick Sick's been helping Ige make improvements. I don't think it's going to be to the point of him being a serious contender or anything. I think he'll be able to find his boxing shots on Sean Woodson. I think his hands have improved in the last 2 years. And I think when he connects, it's going to be a problem. And I think if Luis Saldana can find that shot, Dan Ige can too. And Dan Ige hits you like that, it's going to be bad fucking news. And Dan Ige is mid sometimes, but I feel like sometimes he does really perform. And it's just dependent on what type of Dan Ige you get. Like the one that fought Mobstar was fucking terrible. The one that fought Lopes on short notice was actually really good. And so on. I just think that he's experienced enough, and I don't trust the Woodson chin. You can't be that tall, that skinny, and not have, a good chin, as far as I'm concerned. I think Ige will crack his chin. I'm going to go second round Ige.
Kind of a polarizing fight, just in terms of the size difference between the two of them. Ige is clearly the more powerful fighter. He's fought better competition. He's more well-rounded in that regard and more experienced. That being said, I like Dan Ige more than most too. I feel like it's not so much the Ige that we get; it's the level of opponent that he faces that kind of tells us where he's at. Like he can, I want to say he KO'd Julio Arce. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm thinking of a different fight, but he KOs like Andre Philly, but he loses a decision to like a Lerone Murphy. He's got good wins. He's got good power. He's got decent boxing. I highly recommend Ige chops the legs and goes to the body to set up a potential shot to the head with like an overhand. I feel like if he tries to headhunt and go jab for jab with Sean Woodson, that's not the route to victory in this one. I don't mind the idea of wrestling either, but that being said, I do see Sean Woodson being able to get himself back up, not get controlled, and use the clinch with body knees, clinch elbows. There's clearly a range advantage and a size advantage in favor of Sean Woodson. He had a professional boxing career, so I rate his boxing. He's got good straight punches. I like Ige, but he needs a knockout. I don't see him winning a decision in this one, so I'm going to go with a Sean Woodson decision. He's just too big for Ige, frankly. That's it. I don't think he, honestly, I think Sean Woodson may look the best he's ever looked this fight. As hard as that is to believe. I think he's just going to skirt around the cage, just jab, leg kick, stay ahead on points, make Ige whiff, make Ige get desperate. He'll run into a knee. He'll open the cut that Movsar Evloev did with the flying knee. I think we're going to see Sean Woodson looking like a really good boxer out there.
This is fake, YouTube. This is not real.
Moving on. We got...
It's Benjamin's real, though.
Shut the fuck up. We got the main card opener. We got...
We smoking gas, Mike. We smoking gas.
Are y'all going to keep... off. Yeah, you fucking cunts.
You only have two moments.
Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes.
Let's go.
I'm gonna go with Dominic Reyes.
Hell yeah.
I think he's gonna knock out Krylov here. I don't really like the activity from Krylov. He hasn't fought in over 2 years. Yeah, his last win is against Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann beat Dominic Reyes. But I have a feeling that Dominic Reyes lost his confidence after his losing streak before that Ryan Spann fight. I think he was losing a little bit of himself. Now that he's on a 2-fight knockout streak, I have a feeling Dominic Reyes is starting to come back to being that Dominic Reyes we all loved and knew. I'm not saying that he's going to be a champion, but I do think he is going to be back at possibly contending, being a top contender again. I'm gonna go with first or second round knockout.
You know, there's a point in time where we all were wondering where the fuck Nikita Krylov was. Like,
I thought
some of us figured he was like enlisted in the war or some shit, which goes into my point of like, bro, he's been so inactive. Like, we don't know really if he's been training or anything. And Reyes is he's got some momentum coming his way off of the win he's just the past couple wins he's had. And I hear Tony making this point a lot, and it's pretty valid. Reyes really doesn't get grapple fucked like that, albeit Nikita Krylov is one of the premier grapplers of the division. He did make Jones' life miserable trying to take him down and won that fight. And I don't see Nikita Krylov being John Jones. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go Reyes TKO, maybe decision. But I'm going to give Reyes the benefit of the doubt here and go TKO.
Yeah, I also am going to go Reyes here. I think Reyes is, he had his getting fucked up. And I think he's mentally switched back on, though, since then. He's seen an improved Reyes, like one that doesn't look shit. Like the one that fought Ryan Spann looked like complete dog shit. And now he seems to have gotten back to like the Dominic Reyes that we know. And I think with that in mind, coming off 2 victories, KOing Dustin Jacoby in the first round ain't no joke. No, the Anthony Smith is a victim at this point, but that Dustin Jacoby win is very impressive. Shout out Tony, you picked that correctly too. But I think Krylov just gets licked up in his fights. Like, he gets hit too much. Like, Ozdemir was cracking the shit out of him in the first round, and I think Reyes is, when he's on, he's really sharp, and I think he can low-key knock him out in the first or second round. I think Krylov, he has to grapple to win this fight. I don't really trust his striking against Reyes, switch-down Reyes, I should say. He has to grapple. Nobody's really beaten Reyes by grappling. John Jones mixed it in, I guess, but that's fucking John Jones. Like, Reyes, or Krylov ain't John Jones. He really isn't even much of a takedown guy. Like, he isn't good at takedowns in general. Like, he gets them sometimes, but, like, I don't really put his takedown ability that high. I think Reyes' takedown defense is a lot better than Krylov's takedown offense. He's got decent submissions, and he made it a really close grappling fight with Glover, and maybe he can surprise us, but I think Reyes can land some big shots and knock him out in the first 2 rounds. I don't think Krylov's really like that, and I think Reyes is a bad matchup. I think Krylov needs to fight, like, I don't know, strikers with no grappling. I think Reyes has his way with him. TKO.
We look at Reyes' losses in his career. Jan Blachowicz, when he was at his prime. Yuri Prohaska in his second UFC fight. So in terms of damage, it wasn't like Yuri was still able, like, he could take a missile and you feel like he's going to come out of it and still try to kill the guy, for lack of better words. After the Yuri fight, he fought who? Was it Ryan Spann after Yuri?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so he's those results, he only has 4 losses, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Type shit.
Yeah, so you know what I'm gonna say. He won the Jones fight, but whatever. He lost that, for a lack of better words. The other 3 fights, he's getting knocked the fuck out. You know, I don't. There was a point in time where I actually said Ryan Spann was a kryptonite matchup for Alex Pereira. I'm very wrong on that. But sheer, like, just look at Ryan Spann. He's not a good fighter. He's not. But in terms of athleticism, speed, and explosiveness and power, he can hit hard. You know. Yuri, I know, hits hard. And Jan Blachowicz, he's got power, but technical. Like, Jan's really Muay Thai world champion. Good boxing, good kicking, everything. Like, he's a phenomenal striker. We've never seen Jan Blachowicz ever lose the striking, like, by a wide margin outside of the Thiago Santos knockout. But Yuri, Jan, Spann, I reckon they hit harder than Nikita Krylov punch for punch. I really do. And just in terms of an athlete, Krylov isn't bad, but I think Spann's bigger. Yuri is a better athlete than Krylov, and Jan's not maybe a better overall athlete, but he's not no slouch. Even at that age, even at the age of like 35 plus, near 40, Jan still. We just saw it in the Oberg fight, off of double surgeries to his shoulders. He was able to hang and if not win the fight against Carlos Oberg. So you kind of got to look at every loss Reyes has had. Outside of the Spann one, he's losing to the champions. He's losing to Yuri, Jan, and Jones outside of Spann. I think Krylov's a good fighter overall. He got really good skill set. He's not bad on the feet. He's not a bad grappler. He's only losing to really good fighters like Ankalaev by decision, Jan by sub, and Glover to a split. So he's a good fighter. I'm going to say Dominic Reyes wins a decision. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think Reyes has got good boxing. He's not primarily known for his kicks, but when he throws them, they're not bad. Good body roundhouse. He can throw the calf kick. Doesn't really throw high kicks, but his body roundhouse is decent. We've never seen Reyes get grapple fucked, so I am already ruling out a Nikita Krylov submission. I'm deleting that from the algorithm. I don't think that's happening in this fight whatsoever. Yeah, I think Reyes wins a decision where he's able to land the more impactful shots in the striking. He's able to defend the takedowns. And the layoff of Krylov, it's not great. As Sink said earlier in his prediction, it's true. We don't know where Krylov's been. He lives on the border of Ukraine and Russia. So he's on the front lines of all of this that's happening right now. So I don't know how I like that in his mental state. There's 2 ways to look at it. You could think, oh, he's ready to fight because look where he's at. Like, there's violence everywhere he turns. The other way to look at it is, where is he mentally? Like, is he still distraught over what's happening where he lives? So I don't like his mental. I don't like the layoff. I respect Krylov, but I'm going to go with the Dominic Reyes decision. I think this is going to be a great fight. Back and forth. Momentum swings I could see for sure. But I'm going to go with a Reyes decision, where he gets more damage, defends the takedowns, and gets his hand raised, and goes on a 3-fight win streak.
We got Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull.
It is. It's a tough fight.
But Yair don't really like... When was the last time Yair like flatlined somebody? Like he hasn't really flatlined anybody besides that fluke elbow KO against Korean Zombie. Other than that, every time when he drops somebody, he fails because he hammer fists like a freaking like a girl. Dude's just soy. I don't know. I don't trust him. I'm gonna go with Pitbull by decision. Maybe a submission.
Type shit.
It goes one of 2 ways. Either we see the speed advantage of Yair Rodriguez, he stays at kicking range, he's able to lead Pitbull into bad takedown entries, use his footwork, and just be the better overall, younger, more faster fighter on the feet at least. I don't like that Pitbull's making his UFC debut after taking a loss against a Ryzen fighter. That's not a great look.
He's coming off a win.
Oh, he is? Oh, good. Okay, at least there's that. I didn't like the knockout loss he sustained against a Ryzen fighter in one of his last 2 fights. But I do respect Pitbull's legacy. I know he comes from a more inferior company, but he is the GOAT of one of those inferior companies. He is legitimately the Bellator GOAT. He knocked out Michael Chandler. He beat AJ McKee. He lost to AJ McKee by finish, but he did beat AJ in the rematch. Like, he's fought high level competition before. And Yair Rodriguez is a good striker, but I don't think his jiu-jitsu is that good. I just think Josh Emmett left his arm in a bad position in their fight. I think his finishing potential is very kick and like knee and elbow reliant. I don't, like Mike said, when is the last time we've ever seen Yair like just starch someone with his hands? He's very much a volume boxer, and his money makers are his kicks and his knees and his elbows. I imagine those are his most dangerous techniques and strikes. Pitbull is the shorter fighter. He can be susceptible to kicks up the middle, high kicks, and knees. He can. It is possible. But I feel as though that the gap on the ground is just more significant than it is on the feet. I think Pitbull's not the better striker in this matchup, but he's not terrible on the feet. Like, he's not walking into bad shots or anything like that. Granted, he did get knocked out in one of his last 2 fights. I don't think Yair Rodriguez is that good of a boxer. I think he's all kicks and knees and elbows. I don't think his boxing's that great. I think if Pitbull gets takedowns, he's got the fight IQ to win 15 minutes against Yair Rodriguez, who I reckon is kind of a one-dimensional fighter if we really break it down. I know he has some submissions, but he's a kickboxer, taekwondo fighter for the most part. Like, he has submissions, but I don't see Pitbull putting himself in situations to get submitted like that, like Josh Emmett or Brian Ortega. But even though Brian Ortega had he had an asterisk to that win. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Pitbull decision in his UFC debut. I'm going with the go to Bellator to be smart enough to not let Yair Rodriguez have his type of fight. I think he's going to mix the martial arts. I think he's going to get the takedowns. He's going to try to stay at a range that can neutralize Yair's kicks and his speed, where he can see everything in front of him and there's nothing like leading to a deceiving strike. Where I could see Yair feinting and maybe throwing a jab and then a high kick after it, where he would be prepared to guard something else. So I'm going to go to Pitbull decision.
This is a close fight. It was really tough to predict, to be honest. I was originally when the fight got announced, I picked Yair because I thought was figured, the Chihiro Suzuki fight. He got knocked out in the first round. It was, and to be fair, Chihiro Suzuki pretty much went right at Pitbull, went right at him, and got right to work right away. Whereas Pitbull needed, some time to settle in the fight. Yair might give him that time, he might not. Depends. Yair's been fighting more and more technically lately, or more technically trying to, with less wheel kicks and shit, but I feel like that would serve him good here in Pitbull, to just kind of get wild early, see if you can head kick him out conscious. But I think Pitbull he can mix in the grappling, and that's the way he wins. If he tries to strike with Yair, that's bad news. I think he has to grapple this fight, and it's very important that he does so. And I think Pitbull, if he does grapple, he has good enough grappling, he has a good enough top game to win this fight. I just worry that Yair, being the UFC guy, fighting the UFC talent, is able to mix in his kicks and his punches way better than Pitbull is. And Pitbull's taking Jeremy Kennedy to the third round, and Jeremy Kennedy's being somewhat competitive. You're getting chinned out and rising. And my logic is, if AJ McKee can head kick you, so can Yair. That being said, I think Pitbull is a smart fighter. Him training with Captain, I almost called him Captain Cook, Captain America, the Cejudo's trainer, and being at Fight Ready, is a very good wrestling gym, MMA. And I think he is not stupid. I don't think the captain's stupid. I think he's going to come in with a good game plan. I think he's going to mix in the grappling. Like Mike said, Yair Soy, he really can't get a finish, even if he has to flatline you with a head kick, because if he gets put in a TKO position, he is not able to finish you off with punches. He's not able to hammer fist you out or punch you out after he's dropped you if you're not completely out. So he kind of has to just sleep Pitbull. And that's kind of unlikely, especially at featherweight. I think Pitbull's going to see the fucking wheel kicks and the flying knees coming. I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns. I'm going to say Pitbull. He's got an underrated submission game as well. I think Pitbull could get it done. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. Grappling fest. I don't like that he got shinned in Rising, though.
I don't.
That's
I
bad.
don't like that. I don't. But I don't rate Yair's boxing.
Nobody really does, but to be fair, like, he had moments of boxing with Max Holloway.
He's got volume and output. He has output. But power, he got a good, decent. I think it's more so his reach than his technique with the straight shots. But when he puts it together with the kicks, he looks very nice on the feet.
Yeah,
I think it did look like him against Holloway.
He did.
Hurt Holloway with a punch in the first round.
Holloway's getting
Holloway
takedowns, though.
Holloway and Volk wanted to grapple Yair.
Volk was smart with the takedowns.
What's his name? Max almost had a guillotine at one point.
If that's Pitbull, he could fuck around and finish that.
That's facts.
I just like the experience. Who is Bellator GOAT if it's not Patricio Pitbull?
It might be Patricio Pitbull, but, Bellator is like the king of cans. You know what I mean? Like,
well, king of cans. Oh, I love that you said that. I love that you said that. Eddie Alvarez won a world championship against a UFC champion in RDA. Michael Chandler has fought for a UFC title, having been a former champion of Bellator. I know these are very rare examples, but still, like this, if that's that level, I think Pitbull is the GOAT of that shit.
Yeah, and I mean, I would agree, but these guys, Eddie Alvarez, he's coming in like 31, 32, 30 years old. Michael Chandler came in 35, or 34. MVP's coming in, I think, 36 or 37, and he's at welterweight.
Right.
Pitbull's coming in featherweight, 38 or 37.
That's true.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Bro, I don't know, man.
It's a tough fight. It is.
He's fighting a certain level of competition, whereas Yair also is accustomed to fighting a certain level of competition. Yair's fought Max, he's fought Volk, he's fought the Korean Zombie, prime Korean Zombie when he wasn't shit.
Right.
Jeremy Stevens has a style.
That's true.
You know what I mean? There's things out there.
For sure.
Stevens is like a Bellator level guy. Like, if Jeremy Stevens was there, he'd be champ. It's tough, though, because, like, I feel like Yair's so soy. Like, if Pitbull comes in, wrestles, he got him. He's got him. Easy.
He did say that he was going to smash right here.
Yeah, I like that. That's grappling words.
Yeah.
And I reckon the gap on the ground is more significant than it is on the feet. Only because Yair is not this prolific knockout artist that people think he is.
I don't like coming in, like, when it's like Bellator versus UFC guy. I'm inclined to pick the UFC guy, but I'll go Pitbull on this one. There is a clear path to victory here, and if he uses it, he should be able to win.
We got Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva.
Tough fight.
The Holy War.
Yeah.
Mike, can I take the lead on this one?
Yeah, you got this, champ.
You know what? In a crusade, in a holy war, you gotta pick one side. One side is always victorious. It's the holy side. Question is this a holy war? If you think it is, you bet your money on Bryce, right? Because one side will overcome the other every time. That being said, what if Bryce Mitchell is a schizophrenic and he's imagining all of this shit and Gene Silva isn't possessed by demons, he's a fighter who's autistic? I think that's probably more likely, to be honest. And based on logic, I think I have to pick Gene Silva just based on that. But no, I have to see if I was picking Bryce. But I genuinely think Bryce is competent. He's fighting for a little extra. He's probably going to be fighting harder than he's ever fought. That being said, Gene Silva's not a man to really fuck with. He has been taken down before when he hasn't expected it. But good takedown defense, good timing, really good power, fucking vicious. Gene Silva's with this. You know, and Bryce Mitchell has really got to be with it, and he's got to be pretty much shooting for his life 24/7. Like, he's got to pretty much Colby Covington this motherfucker. Prime Colby. Like, just start single legging until you just finally get him down. Like, no matter what it takes. Like, you just got to, like a fucking dog on a bone, you just got to go. That being said, I think Gene Silva's got a good camp. He's a smart fighter, even though he seems autistic, and he is. But hey, autistic people usually get good grades. But yeah, you know, I think he can do it. I think he can slump him with an uppercut or a knee, or just like find an opening on the feet and KO Bryce, unfortunately. I like Bryce. I also like Gene Silva. I think he's a really fun fighter to watch. I do think he's next up, though, and I feel like Bryce has kind of had his chance. He hasn't showed us anything really that makes me think he's the GOAT, you know, or that he's super good or anything like that. I think Gene Silva can slump him out, and, you know, I'll definitely feel bad for Bryce, but the media's, you know, had their way with him, but this is a really tough fight. You're fighting a fucking hungry, dangerous opponent who's got nasty power, nasty timing, good takedown defense. It's a tough fight. It's a nightmare matchup for Bryce. That being said, if this is a holy war, put your money on motherfucking Mitchell. That's all I have to say. But if it's not a holy war, I'm going to take Gene Silva in one.
I'm gonna go with Gene Silva. I love Bryce Mitchell. He's one of my favorite fighters in featherweight. I was supposed to get. We were supposed to get an interview done this week with Bryce Mitchell. Unfortunately, Bryce Mitchell didn't want to do it. Not picking him against it. Not doing on some weird shit on that. No hate towards that. I like Bryce Mitchell. I'm gonna root for him. I'm gonna root for Bryce Mitchell, but I gotta go with Gene Silva. I have to go with it. I just have a feeling Gene Silva's probably gonna win. He's not bad. He is not a bad fighter at all. Although I have heard some good, I've heard some, like, for people that are picking Bryce, I've heard, like, from Tim Welch's breakdown or whatever podcast, or I don't know what he was talking in, but he said in sparring, there was sparring footage of Gene Silva easily getting taken down in sparring. But that's sparring, I have a feeling. I have a feeling he's gonna work well with the grappling. I'm gonna go with decision. I'm gonna go with decision on here.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a certain group of people who reign supreme in this world nowadays, so sorry, it'd be cool to see Bryce to win for the memes, but I gotta go Gene. I don't rate Bryce's chin at this point. I mean, it is Ilya and Josh Emmett, but still, I think Gene has that type of style to put Bryce out, and yeah, I'm gonna have to go Gene Silva.
Now that Ilya has vacated the belt, I reckon Gene Silva is amongst the top tier guys I could see winning the belt in this division now. Bryce Mitchell, I am a fan of him. I like how he fights. I've bet on him before. He's won for me before. I had him against Edson Barboza. That was a good fight for him. Gene Silva is short, low center of gravity. It's always harder to take guys like that down because they're just great at sprawling and being a ball of muscle. The speed, the athleticism, the power is very much in favor of Gene Silva. There is talks of him being taken down easily in camps, and Charles Jourdain was able to grapple in their fight against Gene Silva. Drew Dober didn't really attempt to wrestle before it was too late. The Weston Wilson fight, I don't really perceive him as like an offensive grappler or a wrestler that's going to shoot for takedowns. Stylistically, you know, on the feet, Gene Silva is very much capable of getting the knockout early. Gene Silva should absolutely KO him, but he can grapple, so I want to see it.
This will be the fight to tell us if he's champ ready.
Yeah. Moving on. We got
Like
the
that.
co-main event of the evening. 5-round lightweight fight. Michael Chandler versus Patty the Baddie Pimblett. Lads, I think Patty's gonna fucking mollywop this fucking sausage. I think I'm gonna go with Patty by club and sub. Maybe a TKO. And I think he's gonna finish him in round 2. Or maybe a round 3. Who knows? I think Patty is gonna have he's gonna look a little. I think he's gonna struggle in round 1 with Chandler, and then Chandler's gonna start being like, he's just gonna go full dumb. He's gonna go full dumb with it. I was gonna say something that I can't say.
Retard.
Yeah, that. I think he's just gonna be like, you know what? I'm already ahead of this fight. I think it's time for me to fucking lose, guys. I think he's just gonna fumble the fucking bag like he always does. Michael Chandler's mid. He's just mid. I think he's done. I'm gonna go with Patty by club and sub round 2.
Yeah. Got a Hachi Pimblett as well. I think submission. He's probably gonna. Sorry. Let me redo that. Yeah, I'm gonna go Pat Pimblett. I think he'll win by submission. I think Chandler's cooked. I think he's gonna probably have his way with the grappling. I didn't like the way he looked against Charles Oliveira. I think Charles Oliveira really fucking nobody really expected Oliveira to have like that heavy of a grappling game plan. I think that showed that not only that it works, Patty could probably potentially do something similar. I think he can definitely get takedowns on Chandler at this point in Chandler's career. He didn't look good in that Oliveira fight. To be fair, it is Oliveira, but I'm not one of these motherfuckers that is like, oh, the fifth round. Fuck that. Like, I don't care. Chandler fucking cheated his whole way through that fight to have moments. I think he's gonna have to cheat against Patty too. I think Patty is like that on the ground though. I think it's he's far from the greatest and he's not very polished, but he is I think good enough to beat Michael Chandler at this point. Chandler's been subbed by Poirier as well. I think Pimlett's going to find the submission at some point in this fight. He's got 5 rounds to do so. I think Chandler's going to try to put him away early, and I can see that having a big moment for Chandler, but I can see him failing to finish Patty, and Patty submitting him later in the fight. I'm going to say 3rd round, armbar or rear naked choke. I think Patty gets it done. I think his grappling's like that, and I think he thinks Chandler's cooked.
I really wanted to pick Michael Chandler in this situation. I really don't rate Patty that high. But at the end of the day, Chandler's proven time and time again that he has no IQ. And I do have a feeling since like the competition has dropped off like to such a great amount from like Patty, from Charles Oliveira, from Justin, that he may like be able to ease his mind a little bit and actually like fight with a comprehensive plan that could get him the win. But that's just living on a prayer at this point. He's just shown us that he's that word that we can't say. Alex, if you want to say it for me, but
Retard.
Yeah. So yeah, and Patty's instincts are really good. Like he takes the initiative a lot. He's able to get into these compromising positions for his opponents really quickly and latch up submissions. The cardio, both have shown not to have great cardio, but I could see it not mattering. Like if this fight has to end in a finish. I see no way it goes to a decision. And yeah, I do think Chandler could chin Patty, but I'm gonna go Patty sub. Chandler's like, is he pushing 40 or is he already in his 40s right now?
I think he's pushing it.
Okay, yeah, and maybe we'll get another McGregor call out after a loss again. So yeah, I'll go Patty, but I do think Chandler has a shot. I mean, Patty leaves his chin open. Striking's not very good. Chandler, he could get chin too, though. He's glass jaw Mike, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Patty.
It's a good fight. 5-round co-main event. I'm kind of curious as to why this is a 5-round fight. I don't really understand it, but nonetheless, here we are. Chandler has definitely fought the better competition. It's not even close. He's fought former champions, former title challengers, many alike. Patty, I think, is who the UFC wants to win in this fight. I think they want that UK prospect at lightweight. Well, not even prospect, contender at lightweight. And, say what you want about Paddy Pimblett, but he's durable. He's got a lot of fights, and he's been hit a lot of times, and he's never been KO'd, for what it's worth. I think he does have a good chin. I think he is a fairly durable fighter, considering that he's fought so many fights, and he's never been knocked out. The grappling, I do think the wrestling is Chandler, but the jiu-jitsu is Pimblett. Gas tank, Pimblett's never been 5 rounds, and he doesn't have the best gas tank in the world, but Chandler was able to go the full 5 in his last fight against Oliveira, but that was because, he was kind of conserving his energy and I guess trying to bail out late and just go all out in like rounds 4 or 5 or round 5 particularly. But, I think the gas tanks are level. I think Chandler's the better wrestler. I think he's the more powerful fighter, and experience is in his competition is in his favor. Pimblett, I think, is more dangerous on the ground. I think he's the bigger fighter, and he's who the UFC wants to win in this fight. It being a 5-round fight, I agree with Sink. I think there's no way this should go to scorecards. This should be a finish. Not even if it's based on skill, but just based on fatigue, because their gas tanks aren't great, and if they're going late in the rounds, we could see exhausted exchanges that can lead to bad defense that can get caught, whether it be on the ground with a mistake or it be on the feet with a lack of judgment and not having the proper guard to block a strike. So, all that being said, I think Pimblett, having not been knocked out, I have to give him the durability edge. I think he's the better submission threat, and I think who's who the UFC wants to win. I think Chandler has the tools he needs to win the fight. I mean, you could look at the Jared Gordon fight. They both train at Killcliff, and if Chandler's able to keep that pace and that intensity that Jared Gordon did, he's more powerful, more of a knockout threat. So maybe he could land that first KO loss for Paddy Pimblett. But I'm going to go with a Pimblett submission. I think early on, as we all feel, Chandler will be dangerous, and Pimblett's going to pretty much just kind of backtrack. He's just going to kind of be on the retreat those first couple of rounds to exhaust Chandler and try to have somewhat of a gas tank going into the later rounds and extending the fight. And then I think he'll be able to land takedowns on a more slower, fatigued Chandler. He'll be able to take the back and be able to get a rear naked choke. So I'm going to go with a Paddy Pimblett round 4 submission. I think Pimblett's whole game plan is going to be about extending the fight later into it and just trying to make Chandler whiff, try to make big movements early where he'll be more fatigued in rounds 2, 3, and 4, and then eventually he'll secure the takedown and get a good position where he can find his neck and get the choke. We'll go to round 4, Paddy Pimblett submission.
Alrighty. We ready to move?
Yep.
Alright. We got the main event of the evening. We got Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. I really want to go with Volk. I really do. I'm gonna root for Volk for sure. Volk is the man, bro. Volk is the man. I'm gonna have to go with Diego Lopes, bro. I have a feeling Volk's gonna be ahead in certain exchanges, and then Lopes just has that moment where he just clips Volk in the end. I don't know. It's scary. I don't know. I think Volk's gonna get KO'd, unfortunately. I'm rooting for Volk though. I hope Volk gets it done. I'm gonna go with Diego Lopes. I'm gonna go with a 3rd round TKO. I think Volk's gonna be up 2 rounds, and then Lopes is gonna have a massive counter that catches Volk off guard and gets chinned. I get it. He's coming off a layoff. He's recovering well, but I still don't feel like that's good. Like I get it. For almost he is almost 40 years old. That's also a consideration. I don't know, man. I still can't trust his chin, and I still don't know if I could trust the defense. When he throws a leg kick, he leaves his chin open. That's the difficult part as well. I hope Volk gets it done. I hope I'm wrong, but I got Diego Lopes, 3rd round knockout or TKO.
I'm going to have to pick the former champ, Alexander Volkanovski. I think Diego Lopes is good, but I think he's a far cry from Ilya Topuria and Islam Makhachev. I think he's dangerous early, and I think Volk knows he's dangerous early, and he knows how he loses these fights now is by getting chinned early. And I honestly think Volk can mix in the grappling if he wants to. I think he can do that successfully. On Lopes, I don't think, even though Lopes might go for submissions, I don't think he'll get them. I think Volk's too stubby. I don't think he'll get submitted, whether choke, armbar, anything. But I think he's just too good. I think even in his old age, I think he could break the curse. I think he's still fast. He's still with it. He's still good. He's just chinny. And I think he can avoid getting chinned by Diego Lopes. I think he's a lot better than, Ige and Brian Ortega, especially on the feet. And I think if Volk can survive these first 2 rounds, it's his fight to win. And I think after, a lot of exchanges, Lopes might be gassed, and I think Volk can continue to put the pressure on and maybe even get a TKO of his own later in the fight. I think I'm going to go Volk TKO in the 4th round. I think Diego Lopes is going to have a moment in the 1st round where he might drop Volk. And I think he's going to really go for it, and I think Volk is going to survive. I think Volk's going to start mixing in the wrestling. I think he's going to survive the scary moments, and I think Diego isn't going to be able to be the same fighter after that attempted finish. And I think Volk is just going to systematically pick him apart from that point on. I think he's going to be chopping the calf kick, mate. I think he's going to be fucking flicking the jab and fucking throwing up the head kick. But, yeah, I think Volk's that guy. I think he's going to be, looking like the Volk of old out there after an early scare. I definitely think there's potential for him to get slumped early, but I think Volk can survive it. I don't think he's got the technique to put away Volk for good the way an Islam or an Ilya does to land that real kill shot and put him out. I think he's going to see Lopez's strikes coming. I can see Lopez hurting him, but I don't think he's going to be able to catch him with something Volk doesn't see coming. And I think that's the key here in a knockout blow. I think he could potentially get close to finishing Volk, but I'm going to pick Volk to survive those moments and get the finish later. 4th round TKO.
All right, so here we are at the main event, UFC 314. Great fight we have on our hands. Just by default, for Ilya to vacate the belt, just off that sheer fact that it's not going to be Ilya Topuria across the cage from Alexander Volkanovski, just off that, I have just an extra boost of confidence in favor of the former champion. If it was Ilya, I've said this to Mike and Alex and Sig numerous times, if that hypothetical matchup or really potential matchup what could have been, I told them every time, I could see Volk up 4 rounds to none, and I'd still be worried he'd get knocked out in the 5th round. Don't get it twisted. Diego Lopes has a similar brand of danger in terms of finishes. Definitely submission threat as well. as far as the knockout potential. Nice. That's actually pretty dope. That's cool. Wait, that's dope.
Is that the kid belt?
That's dope.
Is that the kid replica belt?
Yes.
That's clean though.
Fire.
You should have that on the fucking the pod every time. I didn't know you'd have that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Let's not wear it like Israel Adesanya, but all right, yeah, that's good. That's cool. I'm gonna go with the former champ. You know, a lot of things are against him in this fight. He's coming off back-to-back knockout losses, vicious knockout losses. These are bad knockouts. He got head kicked. He got hooked up against the cage. These are not easy to recover from. He's 35 years old. You know, a lot of odds and statistics and things are not in his favor. Yet he is still the favorite, according to the odds makers. I think there's a reason for that. I think this guy is so good as a fighter, in terms of an MMA fighter, what he has accomplished. He started MMA at 22. To get the accolades and the career that he has had has been nothing short of just incredible. Look who he's losing to in his career. He's losing to a welterweight who's clearly bigger than him in every way, shape, and form, in size and stature, gets head kicked, and he loses to the number one pound-for-pound fighter in Makhachev twice, and he loses to Ilia Topuria, who's a potential GOAT in the making. Like, I have no shame in these losses. I think Lopes has momentum right now. I've bet him in a couple of his fights. I had him in the Sabatini fight. I had him in the Saduk Yusuf fight. He looked great in those fights. But that's a whole nother level. It's all about levels in sports. Other echelons that you just, when you fight them or when you go against them in a game or whatever sport that you play, you can recognize, okay, this is a different level. I've never fought a guy like this before. Volk is on that level for Lopes. Lopes, you know, he lost to Movsar in his debut. He put up a great fight. It was a split decision. Some people feel that Lopes won that fight, and I don't frown upon that. It was very competitive. I reckon Volkanovski's takedown defense is on the level of a Movsar, if not greater. I reckon Alexander Volkanovski's submission defense is on another level. For Brian Ortega to have the multiple submission attempts, like deep chokes that he had at UFC, I think it was 266 against Volk, and not lock those in, I don't think Lopes can sub Volk. If Makhachev has your back for a whole round and he can't choke you, I don't think Lopes is going to do it. And as Alex said, Volk is very stubby. Like, he has a low center of gravity just in general for takedown defenses. He has no neck. His arms, his legs, his limbs are very short. And he's a very compact and short fighter. But he puts it all together with the footwork, the range management, the wrestling upside, gas tank. The only concern we have about Volk right now, I think, has nothing to do with his skills and his IQ. I think it has everything to do with his durability and his chin. Diego Lopes definitely has the danger, the boxing, and the power that you need to kill Volkanovski early. But I feel like that's really his only chance to win. I don't see, throughout 5 rounds, him being able to outpoint and outprove and outwin Alexander Volkanovski, who has so much 5-round experience. Went the full 5 with a pound-for-pound number 1 Makhachev. Went 25 rounds with Max Holloway. No, my bad. I'm sorry. My math is way off. He went 15 rounds with Max Holloway. I'm tripping. You know, he's gone against Jose Aldo. I've said this too to Alex and Sink and Mike numerous times as well. I feel like this is a big fight for Volkanovski because obviously this is going to tell us if he still has it. But in terms of competition and the opponent and the gravity of the fight, I do not think this is Volk's biggest fight ever. You know, he went for double champ status. He fought a dominant champion in Max Holloway the first time. In terms of the anxiety, the fear per se, or the doubt, I feel like Volk will have none of that. I think Volk's locked in. I like the shape he's coming in. I think he can wrestle. I think he's the more technical striker in terms of just overall kickboxing. I see him mixing in leg kicks, body kicks, and things of that variety. I see him moving around, using his footwork. I think all of his skills are still there. I think it's new, but it's a familiar face and new. I'm going with the former pound-for-pound number 1 fighter in the world. One of my favorite fighters. I think he's still got the skills. It's just, can he, use them? Can he evade the danger of Diego Lopes? And I just think this is not the best guy Volk's ever fought before. I think Volk still got it. Give me Volk by decision. And last but not least,
at some point in a fighter's career, this is not always the case, but usually they lose to someone that they shouldn't have lost to, like if they were to be in their prime. Now the question is Volk good enough or still primed enough to beat someone like Diego Lopes? If this was a prime Volk, I wouldn't even like second guess it, but one can assume that he may be outside of his prime due to the manner in which he's been losing recently. I'm going to go Alexander Volkanovski because I only see one way in which Diego can win this fight is just to clip him early. But outside of that, I think he's fucked. Like in every Diego Lopes fight we've seen where he doesn't finish the guy, he's out there like struggling in the later rounds, rounds 2 and 3. I get that he had to cut weight twice against Dan Ige, but there's been other fights to where he hasn't looked nearly as formidable in the later rounds. And Volkanovski is a 5-round championship fighter. I see Volk having more ways to win than Diego does. I don't see Diego subbing him. I think Volk could win a decision. I could see him TKOing Diego because he's never went the full distance like Volk has. It's never gotten... The moment it does start to get ugly, we see Diego start fading. And he's already like lost to people who Volk would not have lost to at that point in his career. I'm gonna go Volkanovski. I'll go round 4 TKO. Diego starts gassing out and Volk just piles it on him.
You know what?
that'd be epic.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Volk. I'm gonna go with Volk again. I'm gonna switch my pick.
Yeah. There is that.
I don't know.
That fear of him getting finished, but it's fucking Alexander Volkanovski. Who the fuck has Diego fought really? That like even resembles someone like Volk, you know?
I'm switching my pick because Joe Anderson Brito made easy work on fucking Diego Lopes. And Volk is way better than Joe Anderson Brito. I'm gonna switch my pick here. I'm gonna go with Volk decision.
All right. Those are our UFC 314 Miami picks. We appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to go like and subscribe to the video. I can't wait for this card, especially considering the caliber of cards that we've had as of late. You know, this was much needed, this pay-per-view. Can't wait. Should be a good one.
You know.